yeah, the WRX is officially ready. Alright, so I haven't actually covered a lot of this process so far, because it hasn't been a lot. I guess, I don't even, did we actually do anything to troubleshoot it? We just, like, drove it, and then what did we do? I think...
So when the misfire initially started, we drove it, looked at the spark plugs, looked at the coil packs, made sure everything was visually okay, and then we...
Oh, that's right. It was the VTEC solenoid.
Yeah.
That was the one thing I actually did. So you guys missed me swapping out my old VTEC solenoid with an old VTEC solenoid. I had a... Because Sandy came with one. This one actually did sound weak as hell. I wish I had a quick and easy way to show you. But this one was like... Click, 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 click. Whereas the other one's like... Click, 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 click. You know, that's exactly how it sounds like, you know, verbatim, because I'm a master at making noises with my mouth. So, anywho, as you can see right now, S2000 is partially under the knife. We've been having a weird misfire issue where it basically breaks up after 4,000 RPM, and it'll just randomly misfire, and it's consistently, like, on cue. And actually, it was really fun, because when we first looked at the spark plugs, one of them was kind of dirty, and the other ones were fine. But now you can see these are all sooty as hell right now, and they reek of fuel. So hopefully that means that the fuel pump is actually still okay. I have a new one on the way, but it apparently got lost somewhere in, like, Berkeley, Missouri, or somewhere, or whatever, because it's been there for 2 days. So we're not going to replace the fuel pump today. Today we just got, we got a brand new coil pack. So we are going to go through the fun process of, we're putting all new plugs in it, because that was another thing, is I wasn't sure. Usually plugs won't cause a misfire. It might not make as much power, it might not be consistent, especially in forced induction cars, but this is an NA car. So the hope is that basically we're going to swap out the spark plugs with what we're sure are the right spark plugs, because I think the AutoZone person gave me the wrong ones. Because I feel like I don't remember her giving me laser platinums, but that is what's, like, actually recommended for the car. So we're going to replace the spark plugs, we are going to replace the #1 coil pack, and then we're going to drive it around, and basically we're just going to go down the list. We're going to replace #1, if it's still misfiring, put #1 back in, take the new one, put it in spot 2, wash, rinse, repeat through, because we are not getting a check engine light for this misfire, so thanks, Honda. Anywho, hopefully, when we go down the list, eventually we'll find I'm hoping it's probably #2, but we'll find out. I don't really have a lot to go off of with that one, other than just that it's the odd man out, because it is the Denso, that I got from AutoZone, but even then, it's probably one of the Duralast, which means it's one of the 3 Duralast ones that's bad. So like I said, we're going to go down the list, and hopefully it's just a coil pack, but if not, then we get to gut a cat to see if it's a clogged cat, and then if so, then we'll go test pipe or something like that. And if it's not that, then it's gotta be the fuel pump, potentially. Like, if it's pulsing weird at 4,000 RPM, we'll find out, but until the fuel pump gets here, we can't replace that, so we'll see. Oh, and then the last thing is that we'll potentially try pulling the fuel pump today, if only to siphon out the gas that's in it, because there is the chance that perhaps I got bad gas from somewhere, and it had a little bit of water in it, and so, if so, that sits at the bottom, because gas is lighter than water, so water is getting sucked in with the gas on occasion, which is causing some of the issues, but usually that would cause problems across the rev range, like, it'd be misfiring all over the place versus after 4, so I don't think it's that, but the other thing, too, is that ignition timing steps up the higher the RPM is, so it could just be that there's a lot of things that it could be, which is always fun when you, like, you know, everyone hates on modern cars, but the one nice thing about modern cars is, like, all of this stuff can be easily monitored without aftermarket stuff, so it's really easy to tell. Whereas on this, there's some probably, you know, Honda computer that I could use to find out more, and I may play around with trying to see if I can get a better OBD2 reader and see if I can get any information from that, especially if the things we do today don't fix it, but we're hoping it's just a bad coil pack, so we'll see if that's what it is. Okay, so quick update. We have done a lot of stuff since I was last talking. Basically, we replaced the spark plugs, and we swapped out coil pack #1, and it ran great for all of, like, 2 miles. So I don't know whether or not that was a fluke, or if something we did change stuff and then it made it work for a little bit. but it's back to its misfiring ways regardless of what we do. Spark plug number 4 was a little damp, so what that kind of tells me is there's a chance. Oh, and then we also went ahead and we added octane booster, which didn't really do anything. But if there's still water in the fuel, then it can still be a lot of stuff, and that would actually explain some of the dampness. Because if combustion isn't happening, I mean, obviously there's a lot of heat, so it should mostly evaporate, but especially if the injectors are squirting out a little bit of water that's not getting combusted, there could be some dampness in there. Or I could be totally wrong. This is all just me, making stuff up out of my anus based upon what I know about science, and my knowledge of mechanics is still like all over the place. So long story short is basically what we're gonna do is we just ran, another thing you guys got to miss is we just ran a compression test, and the compression test came back Gucci. So it is not looking like a mechanical fault with the motor or a bent valve or anything like that. We're still getting full compression. So it's really all points back to either an ignition issue or a fueling issue. And the fueling issue is actually, like, so far everything points to it being too much fuel or fuel at the wrong time. So we're thinking it could be a stuck injector. So assuming that that's what it is, I don't even know where to put myself. I'm just rotating around. Whee! So assuming that it is, I'm going to go over here. There we go. So you know what? I'm going to do a wide angle on this. Can I do a wide angle on this? Maybe. Nope. I'm taking screenshots because I'm like an old man going, how does this work? There is a way for me to do it. I just don't remember how. So anyway, long story short is that we're going to go ahead and we put a little bit of seafoam into the gas tank, a little minor thing just to see if we can clean up. But there is a chance that we have an injector that is stuck open or that is not closing quickly, and that would help explain some of it. Is that at like full duty cycle, if that thing isn't opening and closing as rapidly as it's supposed to, then that can cause some issues with getting too much fuel. Or it could be the opposite, but I have a strong feeling that it is an injector that's getting stuck open, because these are 200,000 mile injectors. So I apologize for the background noise. I realize there's a fan running because we're hot. It's terrible because we live in misery. So anyway, long story short is we're gonna go ahead and put the spark plugs back in. Like I said, one of them is kind of damp, but it doesn't look like they're all fouled up or anything like that. And then next thing is just we're gonna run it with seafoam in it for a little bit, see if that does any cleaning up whatsoever. Probably won't. And then we're gonna end up pulling the injectors and having to run a test on those injectors to see if they're working properly. If they're not, cool. Injectors are cheap, easy to fix. We'll swap them out. Woo! We're good to go. But if it's not that, then we've got even more things to check. Like we did get a siphon pump. So likewise, if running seafoam doesn't fix things, we are going to go ahead and drain all 14 gallons of fuel that are in the S2000, because I topped up hoping it would fix the issue. It didn't. And that's still the other thing, is it could still potentially be water in the fuel or something stupid like that. So like I said, we're going to drain the whole tank, fill it up with more gas. If that doesn't do the trick, then we're going to go ahead and pull the fuel rail and then have the injectors tested. But, one step at a time. Okay, so quick update on things. So put it back together. Obviously the seafoam didn't help. We weren't banking on that. But new theory has arisen, because I realized when I was watching the tack go up, there's a little bit of a flicker in the tack itself. And I remembered a while back I had a weird gremlin where the handbrake light would stay on in the wintertime. So again, one of the things I even mentioned back in the beginning is a bad ground, but another thing I didn't think about is it could be a bad alternator. So what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and have dinner, and then after that, if places are still open, we're going to see if we can... Did I lose a cable?
It's shoved
in there. But yeah, so we're going to have dinner, and then after that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the we're going to check all the grounds, clean all those, see if it changes anything, make sure none of the grounds are damaged on the main harness, and as long as that checks out, then we may go ahead and pull the alternator on the car, because it's really easy to do, and then after we pull it, we'll test things, and if that honestly could be a huge cause of the issues, is, if I'm not getting consistent power from the alternator, then whoop-de-woo, there's the problem. But we'll find out, because this is a growing and ever-developing thing, and we still you know, that's one of the things that we will work out. If anything, potentially to save some money, just because I already bought the stuff. Like, see, that's the hard thing. Is like, if we don't use it, we could return it we can return it open box and get all the money back. But at the same time, it's stuff that we do have now, and it is money that has been spent to pump the tank and then put new gas in and see if that helps at all, because it could still be that. So, like I said, we're going to keep on fiddling with stuff. But I'm starting, my gut hasn't been super helpful yet. But my gut is telling me that it's something electrical now. So, we're going to find out. Alright, so once again, I'm proving to be an absolutely terrible vlogger today. So, long story short is, we went ahead, like I said, we picked up an alternator, but we went ahead and tested the voltage. And the voltage checked out. It was in that 14 volt range when the car was running. So it's not really likely that it's the alternator dying out, because we also tested it at RPM and it didn't seem to dip or do anything weird while the car was misfiring. So we're going back to testing out bad gas, if only just because my fuel pump still hasn't arrived. It's still lost somewhere. So we gotta wait for that to arrive or get canceled, or I'll probably have to complain about it on Monday. But basically, so the next step is to remove the fuel tank, or not remove the fuel tank, remove the fuel pump, and then try and siphon out fuel. So we got ourselves this handy dandy little Ryobi transfer pump. Now, first and foremost, I do not recommend doing this. This pump is not rated for fuel. It actively says it in the manual and says not to do that. And then likewise, we couldn't get a 15-gallon container because the car is full. It's got 14 gallons in it. So since we couldn't find a proper container, we are just going to be, as you likely saw first, we are just going to be dumping them into these buckets and putting lids on them and poking holes in the lids so they don't explode. Don't do any of this. This is what we're doing on a time pinch, and yeah, it would be better to do things the right way. So if you have more foresight than us, don't do those things. But we're going to do it anyway, and we're going to see how it goes. There's a strong chance that we're going to ruin this pump by using it on fuel. Knowing my luck, anytime I use something that's not rated for what it's rated for, it's like an 80% chance that it's going to break or not work as intended. So we're going to find out. But yeah, so like I said, the next thing is to go ahead and remove this goddamn fuel tank lid. And at first I was like, oh yeah, we'll totally be able to just, you know, we'll be able to just open it up and, you know, I can fit my hand in there. It'll be easy. No. Clearance is way tighter than I thought it was, so I can't really, like, I could fit tools in there, but for all intents and purposes, it's going to be a lot easier to remove the little tray. So basically, hold on, let me flip. So you can see all this foam stuff, the sound deadening foam, it's attached to a little plastic tray that is the back shelf of the car. So for any of you guys who've seen S2000s for track that are set up for track, basically, it's not really good, but there's this whole plastic tray back here. So basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and remove that, and that's the easiest way to get to the fuel tank from down up above. It is a massive pain in the Angus beef if you have a soft top, because the soft top is lower profile than a hard top, and you have very little space to work with. I envy everyone who has deleted their soft top and gone to a hard top, because then you just take the hard top off and boom, you have easy, like I'm talking about. But like when all this is gone, you have easy access just right down to where you need to go, because the fuel tank's right around in that area. But when you have the soft top, you basically have to, you know, finagle your way in the car and into that, I don't know why I'm holding it like that, and finagle it into that space. So, like I said, basically the Honda OEM manual, there are 3 little plastic pins that you just push in. One of mine, gonna climb in here real quick. One of mine broke, of course, but there's one pin there, one pin over there, which you can't really see in the dark, whoopsie, and another pin over there. And basically, so that's the one you can see the best. They all look like that. And basically, you just push them in with a screwdriver or some other thing, and then you should be able to take this upper tray out, and that's the first step to removing it. So we're going to go ahead and figure out how this comes out, and then once we do that, then we will move on to the next step in getting the lower piece out. So, I also forgot one thing. There are also these little guys. They're like rubber on one side and a nut on the other side. So if you're doing this by yourself, you're kind of screwed. It's easy with a friend. If you have a friend hold a wrench on one side and then you turn the other one. I honestly don't know how you're supposed to do this as a single person other than with, like, you know, an impact. So, yeah, if you use an impact, you can probably zip this nut off the back. But if you don't, then, have a friend hold one end or the other, because it's literally just a rubber stopper on one side and a nut on the other side. It's really dumb. Okay, so basically, I'm just going to be lazy. I'll post up the diagram, but basically, after you take out those 3 plastic push pins I talked about and the 2 actual metal screw rubber pins, there's 4 push pins. Yeah, say hi. There's 4 plastic pins that come up basically right up along here. Like, you can't see them right now because I don't have good lighting. So let me get it, actually grab my lighting. You can't see them super well because they're gone, but they were like right here, and they basically stick down, and basically you just have to take a pair of pliers. Oop, gotta zoom out for that. There we go. Pair of pliers, squeeze those and pop them up. They pop up pretty easy. And then this is that rear shelf. Basically what I ended up doing, now again, if you don't have a soft top, you would be able to just pull it straight up and out. But in my case, since I did, I actually had to pull it up and kind of twist it. Twist the camera. I had to twist it, and I was able to actually get it out through the trunk opening. So I was actually able to pull it down and out through that area. So it comes out without too much fight. You just kind of have to wiggle around with stuff a little bit. By the way, be careful. I cut myself on the fuel lid over there. You can actually see my blood right there. That's yay. It's a little surprisingly sharp. But basically, once you get that out, you've got super easy access for all of your tools and stuff to fit in here. So again, you still end up working out of the back of the car, but now you can actually see stuff. So basically, there are a bunch of little bolts all the way around. One of the bolts is hidden up under a bracket. I don't know if I'm going to be able to capture this well. Let's see. So basically, this thing is attached to a bracket, and underneath that bracket is one of the bolts. But once you undo, stand back up. Once you undo all of those bolts, though, you should be able to actually get to the fuel pump and stuff, which is what we want to do, because we actually want to pull that whole carrier out, and then once we get the whole carrier out, then we can stick our hose in and start to siphon out the gas out of this tank, and hopefully, like I said, it's one of many things that we're testing for, but we'll siphon it out, see if that helps at all by putting fresh gas in. Now, what a lot of guys do, and what I may still end up doing, I see that's the worst thing, is I'm kind of torn. Because what some people do is they kind of use the fuel pump to their advantage by, sorry, it is a very hot day. So what they do is they use the fuel pump to their advantage, and they just disconnect the fuel line from the fuel rail. And then once they do that, then they're able to just siphon everything out just by turning on the fuel pump and letting it go buck wild. But in my particular case, I didn't want to mess around. Well, and it's like, it's kind of, pick your poison, because you still have to mess around with pulling the lid from your fuel tank and everything. And I actually don't know if there are any gaskets or anything I need to replace. I need to read up on the documentation. So I might end up replacing a gasket regardless. But the biggest thing here is I also wanted to check the fuel filter. I doubt that that's the issue, but I'm going to check the fuel filter nonetheless. And then, like I said, we're going to drain the fuel, put fresh fuel into it, and then if that doesn't fix the issue, then we've got that fuel pump that's coming on the way, and we'll have already done most of the legwork to get it all taken apart, so then it should be easy to do the fuel pump, and we'll already know where everything is. So that was the main reason where it's kind of like, you can choose a bunch of different options here, but that's the way we decided to go. So we're going to do that. Alright, so obviously I'm a big fat loser, because you can, well, I don't know, maybe some of you can tell, maybe you can't. But once again, I have not properly, and I was probably covering my microphone there too. I have not properly, genuinely, still have not charged my cameras in like 2 months. So I'm using my phone again in a spur of the moment thing, because I realize I haven't covered everything. But I wanted to go ahead and do a quick update on the last video. So replacing the fuel pump actually didn't fix the issue. I don't know if it was just like, so long story short is what actually fixed the issue is, hold on, let me find the little guy, was this little bastard right here. This is a map sensor, specifically one from Advanced Auto that I bought 2 years ago, when I was or 3 years ago now, when I was first troubleshooting the Misfire on the WRX. Well, anywho, that was, like I said, obviously that turned out to be that my motor was dead. or dying because of spun bearings, and it was somehow running because magical Honda stuff. So anyway, I put back on my OEM one that's as old as the car, fixed all my issues, made it run fantastically. So long story short is, all along it was a bad map sensor / a map sensor that was going bad. And the way I found out is because the car threw a check engine light. And the check engine light told me exactly what it was. So, you know, couldn't have told me any sooner, so I didn't have to waste all that time and effort, buddy. But anywho, I just wanted to give a quick update on that. So, yeah, that's what ended up fixing everything. Check your map sensors, boys and girls, if you're having the same symptoms I did, which is random misfires at specific RPMs and just inconsistent misfire behavior. But, like, everything else is fine. Plugs are good, coil packs are good, etc. So, yeah, that's the end of that story.